Learning Cafe hypothesis is simple. AI isn't changing the tools we use. It is fundamentally shaping our identity as L&D professionals. The reshaping is uneven, it is messy, but it is happening, and we need to understand it beyond just learning how to write a prompt. Well, welcome to the AI ChinWag from Learning Cafe. I'm Jeevan Joshi from Learning Cafe. This is not a webinar. There are no slide decks. There are no sales pitches. This is a fortnightly objective to look at the reality of AI in learning, the advancements, the frustrations, and the hype. Joining me in the gallery today are two people deep into the trenches with this shift. First up is Lavanya, joining us from the academic frontline. Lavanya Sundarajan is a teacher in the Future of Technologies division of RMIT. Lavanya, great to have you here. And I know you're just not teaching theory, you're actually building stuff. You mentioned you've been testing Copilot and Clipchamp integration recently. How is that going?
Pretty neat, actually. Very good to create engaging videos for the learners. So I'm enjoying it.
Excellent. Hey, welcome to the trial chat, and hopefully, we'll have you on the real chat, pretty soon. Then, of course, we'll dive into that workflow a little bit later. But next, moving on to Morgan. Morgan Popley. Morgan has spent his career running startup accelerators and even founded his own AI startup previously, but he has a learning background. So welcome, Morgan. Morgan's with CBA as the AI business partner. So welcome, Morgan. And I believe you've been into vibe coding as an intergeneration skill exchange. Sounds like an exciting word. What does it mean, Morgan? Exactly, vibe coding?
Well, so basically, vibe coding is being able to work with, traditionally a coder will write syntax and write these big lines of code that then, create some sort of an app. And so what vibe coding allows us to do is actually just say what it is we want, what kind of thing that we're looking for in an application or a game, and use AI to create that. So I've been experimenting doing that with my daughter and creating different games together and seeing how we can actually work and use maybe my wisdom with her kind of like young, innovative approaches to come up with something unique.
Oh, look, absolutely. That sounds exciting. It completely blurs the line between learning to code and just doing it, right? So that's very nice and a wonderful learning tool in itself. Well, this actually now brings us directly to the central ChinWag today. We're still kind of operating on frameworks built for the industrial age. ADDIE, Bloom's taxonomy, the 70-20-10 model, they assume mostly that learning is linear, structured, controlled, but often slow. But AI is iterative, messy, and instant. So the question today is, are our current learning methods actually fit for purpose in an AI world, or are we just trying to shoehorn a jet engine into a horse cart? Or, like one of my colleagues from the army said, trying to just polish a steam engine instead of building a jet engine, right? So, yes, I think that's the main topic. So, I'd love to hear, what you have to say. So, Lavanya, I want to start with you because you kind of mentioned using Copilot with Clipchamp. In the old world, making a video module was a week-long process: scripting, storyboarding, shooting, editing, and the classic, ADDIE model, right? But I believe now through the different AI tools, you're able to generate outcomes and solutions and content creation pretty quickly, right? So does it kind of fundamentally change the way that content creation needs to work, right? In terms of quick iterations and deep dive into the outputs and the quality of the outputs and then correcting it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, because during my work with IBM, any kind of a video production basically meant that we create the PowerPoints and the video team kind of takes it through. They pick a voice which kind of fits into that PowerPoint presentation, and so the whole process is at least about 10 business days long. From the time we start creating the PowerPoints to the time the video is created. And cut to today, like I said, I was using Clipchamp. I could create a 5 minutes video about object-oriented programming concepts. I mean, I did not technically, I mean, I know about oriented programming, but I did not have to know anything. All I had to go and do is, this is my goal. I want to create a video for this set of learners, aged between 17 to 21, on object-oriented programming concepts, use catchy visuals, and tada, in less than 3 minutes, it gives me the entire video. I can choose the intonation, I can choose, I can say, use a Gen Z lingo, do not make it too professional. And everything happens in a matter of few minutes, which I think, like I said, any profession that you take today, you're going to thrive if you know how to use AI rightfully in that profession. And I think learning and development is not an exemption to that. So you just need to adapt, because like I was just telling you, Juvan, the future, I mean, like the 2027 hire, the freshers are all going to be people who have just used AI for their entire education. So their perspective of whole workforce oriented learning is going to be entirely different. So you need to know how to use AI to kind of engage them. Otherwise, we're just going to lose fantastic human resource.
Thanks. I might check with Morgan on this, because Morgan, you've kind of worked in those startup environments, right, where the pace of iterative development is pretty quick, right? It kind of the basic methodology to get the product out quickly. So have you seen, like, just based on that experience, and also just what you think, do you think that the traditional ADDIE model might prove inadequate, or is there still something so fundamental to it that it'll still form the core, but just used in a different way?
That's really interesting. I think in terms of the ADDIE model, like all of the aspects of it seem pretty. I have to also have to declare right now, I've never been a learning designer, so this isn't something that I can kind of say, oh, I've used the ADDIE model. But from what I know about it, the different aspects of it being around, analyzing it and evaluating, I think these are all really important in this new paradigm. But potentially, we need to be able to be a bit more strategic in how we deploy the different parts of them, and then sometimes we'll be doing some of those segments at the exact same time. I think that you asked me about like what I saw in like the startup space, and one of the things that particularly with AI, those AI startups that have got an idea, and they want to work on it and love the idea and are so wedded to the idea, but don't never build the opportunity to actually fail earlier than if the idea was never going to get off the ground. So there's kind of an aspect of, I feel, what I'm seeing is that we need to think about the ability to be more iterative, a bit more faster, and fail, like actually be prepared to fail faster and look for what are those fail points within our plans and our learning and the work that we're doing. So to do that, I'm seeing this. It's sort of like Back to the Future, like the skills that were so important around, I don't know what we call them now, human skills or soft skills, as they were, about 10 years ago or so. Those are even more important than they ever were before. So the ability to actually be inquisitive, that curiosity, that ability to adapt. All of these are the things that I think that that's actually where we need to be if we're going to develop skills for people to work with AI. And what Lavanya was talking about with those younger people coming through, 100%, we need to be able to engage with them, but we also need to ensure that we're able to equip them and the rest of the workforce with the ability to actually have those human skills, those softer skills, so they can work and get the best out of AI and drive AI as opposed to the other way around.
Oh, thanks, Morgan. That's a great insight. I think that also brings us just to this other question that Lavanya and I were just discussing before we started, was I guess the newer generation joining the workforce. So let's take the grad program intake, right? I wanted to just get a sense of how capable and adept they are in using AI. So is it native to them that they can actually use that very, very proficiently to produce quality outcomes? Or is it a case where they do have some skills, but not good enough, or it doesn't produces, or it's not deep enough to actually produce the results that I wanted. So I might get some insights from Lavanya just in terms of your take on the younger generation kind of joining the workforce. Where do you think they are with AI skills and how they might use it in the corporate space?
That's actually quite challenging at this point in time, because while while they have so many AI tools available, what's happening is, I think there is a generation which is kind of taking it for granted and going with the feeling that, I don't have to learn anything, AI knows everything, which is kind of dismissing any intrigue that Morgan was mentioning about. So they're not going to be intrigued to learn, because they're going to just assume that AI knows everything. What's the point in me learning? So that's where there's going to be a gap. Like I was mentioning, there's 20% of the workforce who know to use AI for their work, and the rest of the 80% are entirely dependent on AI. So if you take the AI out of the formula, they have nothing. They know nothing. So that's what's going to be the challenge. So like Morgan said, in such case, you need to kind of look at their attitude to learn, and their aptitude and everything is going to matter more than just the knowledge of using AI.
Thanks,
And
Lavanya.
can I
Yeah,
build on that as
sure.
well? Because something that I think is with those that younger generation comes through. I mean, that is scary the way that you just put it. That if you took it out of the equation, what are they going to do? And thinking of those critical thinking skills kind of disappearing. We know, like, there has been studies around where the highest performance has come from people using AI in a workforce, and in that engineering space, the senior engineers getting more out of using AI than the entry level engineers, who everybody thought, oh, with AI, it's going to put all the older people out of a job, but that's not the case. And what we were talking before about that vibe coding, and what I found in the experiment with my daughter, I know this is just one child that I've done this with, and we've worked it out, but she actually was unable to come up with ideas for things where I was able to have a reference point based on my experience. So my life experience, I had seen a particular type of interface or a particular type of game or whatever it is, and I'm able to draw on that to come up with what that solution looks like. Now, she just doesn't have that experience. She's never been exposed to the same things that I have in my life, so she can't actually engage with the AI at the same level. So it does create a problem and a gap potentially in that workforce, where we have new people coming in, these younger people coming in, and there's more senior people who are getting all the value out of AI exiting the business. That is one of the concerns that I have about what does that mean for our talent development pipelines right across the spectrum. How do we ensure those younger people actually can develop those critical thinking skills, and add some value to the company as well?
Oh, look, absolutely, Morgan. And I think that it's a challenge that will confound us for a little time. And I'm sure there's going to be larger discussions around, how soon can young kids start using AI? Just like, I guess, social media, they might eventually put a ban saying, don't use, AI till you're 10 years old. Otherwise, your own life experiences and how to crystallize that in terms of solutions. So it'll be an interesting discussion, kind of going forward. Just coming back to the ADDIE method. Look, I'll be honest, for this particular Zoomcast, right? What I did was I used AI. So I said, hey, you sent me your introduction. So Lavanya, I put in your introduction. Morgan, I put in your introduction, and I put in the main topic, right? I said, 3 people, right? This is broadly what we are talking. Can you generate a script, right? So everything I spoke right now about the welcoming, right? Welcome Lavanya, welcome Morgan, and again, the couple of sentences was generated by Gemini, right? And I'm not sure I would have been able to write that, especially because I'm kind of doing this for the first time, so I don't have enough, you know, capability to write this quickly. And I'm sure I might if I do this consistently. But for a first timer, the output that I got from AI was just, it's like, wow, saved me a lot of time, right? And did it far beyond my capability as a person who's new to this thing, right? So guys, I guess, the question there is that in terms of using, AI in learning, right, in the workforce, right, with it learning new things, would it be easier for them just to go to Copilot within the corporate IT environment and just ask the question, about what they want to learn rather than going into, kind of structured courses, which may or may not be available in the first place. So I guess the question I'm asking is that will it be natural for people to go to their Gen AI browser or Gen AI prompt and ask the question there instead of trying to find a course within, I don't know, the LMS, which they're not easy to find in the first place. So just any thoughts about the behavior that learners might have in terms of trying to learn new things in corporates, which at the moment by default we kind of assume it mandatory courses should be in LMS, so we'll find it there. If not there, if you want to find something else, sometimes it becomes so difficult to find anything on SharePoint just because they're not necessarily organized, tagged, and not brought up through the search engine by relevance. So I'm just wondering this behavior change. Any thoughts on that, Lavanya?
I reckon, one of the things that they should be doing is you should definitely have the structured learning. You cannot get away with that because, like I said, when I initially set off to learn AI, which is like about 7, 8 years back, there were so many, courses and so many short videos and stuff. But I was not kind of getting coherent, structured information. Yeah, I was learning bits and pieces about AI and how to create an AI algorithm and all of that. But then the learning was not finite. So only when I kind of got on board a structured learning, I actually learned things that I should be learning and which were aligned to my interest as well. And that's gonna happen with any kind of learning, be it however trivial it is. If you're just gonna be learning about say cybersecurity concepts, you're gonna have a short course for all of the employees on how to be cyber secure in today's date and age. So such a learning, you can definitely personalize it with AI. you know Say if it's for a 20 to 30-year-old, use a lot of Gen Z terms, use scenarios which are more uh, aligned to what their thought process is. Maybe for 30 to 40 it could be different, and so on and so forth. So that you can personalize it using AI, but just depending entirely on AI to just find the answers is not going to work, because like I said, when they're trying to just look for their own answers, they're not going to be finding answers that you want them to be learning about. Get what I'm saying? So that becomes a challenge, I reckon. And like you just said, Jeevan, you said you used AI to generate the script for introducing, but you have the experience, and you are in a position to validate whatever was generated. You may not have generated it yourself, but you are in a position to validate it. But if you're talking about the new workforce between 20 to 30, they may not be so. So that's where you definitely do need the skills and the structured process as well. You cannot do away with that.
Lavanya, that's a great point. I think it's a really good point, the last one, because you're right. As soon as I saw the script, I said that is actually a pretty good script, only because I know what's expected and what is good quality. If I had no experience, I would have no idea if it had dished up something which was rubbish, right? Or inadequate in some manner. And that's quite interesting. Is Morgan, just in terms of L&D people using their expertise and experience and about the context of the organization and the operating environment for the employees. Maybe that's where the value add is, use Gen AI to kind of produce outputs, but then, be able to decipher whether the outputs are, kind of good enough. So, yeah, I guess I'm wondering whether that becomes a core skill, which is not necessarily, producing learning stuff because the Gen AI can produce the content, but reviewing that and then modifying it to, get outputs.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It definitely is a skill, not just for learning, for everybody. Like in this age where AI is going to become more prevalent in everything that we do, being able to actually analyze the output that you get and test it and determine whether it is something that's appropriate for use or not. And then the thing that I know, right, so two things. Ryan Tracy, he had this blog post a little while ago about the AI sandwich that he talked about, which was the first slice of bread is the human putting the information into the AI, then the middle bit is the AI doing the work, and the last slice is the human then coming back and making it better and refining it so that it can be something that's put out into the world. So that brings into point that what I wanted to share as well was that context is so important. And those, what we were talking about, those younger people coming through and that structured training, they don't necessarily have the context as to what that training is for or why it's important, what they're trying to achieve, what they need to be able to do as a result of that. What does the, the 5-year trajectory of someone who has that skill look like? And so all of this information is what's required in order for the output to actually be quality. So when you created the script for yourself, you had the context, you had the information from me, you had Lavanya, you had all of that, actually the prior knowledge of how you've worked with both of us before as well. So and what you were actually trying to achieve with this session. So bringing all of that together. And the way that I think about it now is that it's kind of like being an alchemist. Like we've got to bring in the right bits of context here and all of that together, and you kind of chuck it into this AI pot, and then we cast a spell or something over it, which is the prompt, and then out pops this thing. Which, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's neither until we actually test it. And I know I'm going on a bit here, but I just want to also share, when you were talking about the ability to do this and then start talking really quickly, and you might not have got there, I thought, isn't that really interesting that what this enables is a speed to experimentation, as opposed to, when we talk about speed to competence, but speed to experimentation, I think, is really exciting. So it gives everyone the opportunity to say, I want to try something new for the first time, get that information, actually try. And there is some learning involved in that, but yeah, I don't believe that it replaces the need for structured programs just yet.
So let me give you an example, hypothetical. Well, actually, it was real. So let us say I want to learn. I'm brand new to cybersecurity, right? So I can go to my chat Gen AI of choice, right, and say, I'm new to cybersecurity. It's my background. Could you construct a learning pathway for me, right? And because cybersecurity is fairly or well-known field, right, and it's pretty structured in its certifications and concepts, or for that matter, project management, for example, right? I would think, and I need to experiment with this, that it'll come up with a pretty good learning pathway for me, right? Based on my skill level of the information that's supplied. Once it's done that, potentially I could then take that learning pathway, feed it back into the Gen AI, and say, can you build a course for this, right? So it'll, to the extent that this is what I guess we have to talk about in the future sometime, is exactly how much of AI can do this in terms of generating the storyboard, then generating the animation, and then kind of putting it together and adding a quiz at the end, etc. So, and kind of once that's done, the output could be so, and I could further say, look, this output is not very appropriate for me because I'm working in the financial industry. So can you make the content relevant to the financial industry? And lo and behold, it modifies the content there. So I'm just thinking in terms of the end-to-end process of a learning needs for content that's not specific to organizations, like it's common knowledge. It could be, I don't know, mandatory compliance topic, which is, kind of industry generic anyway, or something like cybersecurity or some other well-known body of knowledge. Lavanya, how much do you think we can do that today by using Gen AI platform to get a satisfactory result?
So you have AI built into a lot of L&D tools now. So like Articulate, if you've used it. So Articulate, it's got its own LLM built in. So you can do exactly what you just said, You can generate the entire course, you can generate the questions, you can generate scenarios, everything through Articulate. So I would say a course which would have perhaps taken about a month to develop now can be done in a matter of few minutes. You can in fact also input, you can say like, this is the organization that I want to do it for. These are the organization policies. So make it very specific to this context and it can do that. But having said that, if an individual is to go and create by themselves, how are they going to validate the information? Yes, it's going to give you a lot of information about cybersecurity, all of which is in a very generic context, which is relevant to today. You could be going to an organization which is perhaps using, IBM mainframe systems for all you know. So the context of cybersecurity is going to be very different as for X as a part of that organization. So if X wants to learn about cybersecurity in general, yeah, go ahead, create a course or ask questions to Copilot, whatever, learn. That's not a problem. But if you have to learn with respect to a specific context of an organization, of the things that's happening in the processes, the ethics around AI and all of that, I don't know how much of it is going to be supported. And the governance rules, again, it varies from one country to another country. Is AI going to take all that into consideration? Because when we created the course, the AI course for one of the hospitals here, that's what it did. It did not, it was giving us answers based on the US regulations, not on
Yeah.
Australian regulations.
Yes. Yes.
So, how are you going to make all of those changes? So, do you even have the ability to say that, okay, these things that it's giving is all from the US? It needs, what I need is the Australian context, and this is the latest Australian, HIPAA regulation based on which I need. So that is something you cannot get without experience in that relevant field.
Yeah. And look, I think in the last webinar that we had on AI and learning tech, I think there is now an increasing ability to ring fence the information that AI reads, right? It's almost like a private or a small LLM, right? And that's happening at the moment. So it might come to a stage where, you can just point it to certain resources and say, just like Notebook LM, right? Just read those resources and nothing else. So that could potentially point to corporate sources, and hopefully they themselves are valid and correct and structured. But I think we might get to a point where that might become possible, so that the AI doesn't have the freedom of guessing and therefore hallucinating and filling in the blanks. Maybe it's not there yet. Maybe the tech's not easily accessible or not cheap as yet. But we might get to the stage. But potentially you could think about, Lavanya, giving people a license for Articulate and say, if this is the course, here are the resources, build your own course. So in fact, it's a kind of almost like hyper personalized course that could come out. I'm colorblind, so I'm colorblind to red, so only use blue. Or I like, yeah. So you could. So Morgan, what do you think? I mean, just in terms of just the L&D people in corporate, there's so much, like a bulk of them. Well, I won't say bulk, but a fairly significant proportion of them are kind of in that content course development, the needs analysis, and then the structuring of the curriculum, the courses, the breakdown and the storyboard and animation and all that. It'll be interesting to see how that skill set, demand for that skill set shrinks. I'm assuming based on what AI can do.
Yeah, well, you got to think it's only going to get more advanced as well, in not even just the long term, the short term. There's AI products that we haven't seen yet, which are probably going to disrupt a lot of these things even further again. And they may not actually be learning related products. They could be things completely for a completely different purpose that people start to use, because that is the thing about AI. And lots of these sorts of tech products, you don't really know how people are going to use them until they're out there in the market. And you see, and I think Gen AI is really interesting, or these chatbots we've got, because it is like a Swiss Army knife. Like like you said, you use Gemini to come up with this script, but you can also use it to create a course, or you might even use it to come up with what you're going to cook for dinner tonight. Like, it's pretty wild. Or how you treat people. Look at, oh, my dog is sick. Like, why is my dog sick? Here's a photo of my dog, and then Gemini will tell you. Like, it's pretty wild. I think that now is an opportunity for people to experiment. And if you're not experimenting, you should just try to find what are the opportunities that you can experiment and do something different with AI in the current way that you're working, and also getting it to challenge you. So this is a bit of a thing that I like to do a lot, is these pre-mortems where you have an idea, this is the approach I'm going to take, and go through with AI to challenge me on how could I do this more wildly differently than how I'm doing it right now? What would be some experiments I could use to actually use AI in place of this? There is something that is missing. Like, I know AI is amazing and it can do so much, and I get so excited by it, but I'm also really excited from learning from humans as well. And particularly in the university sector, I know there's a lot of changes happening. I've worked at a few universities that But when I do my program and I actually get to talk to a professor in a particular area and get feedback from them and actually deconstruct what it is that we're working on, that is something that is totally, you can't replicate that at this point in time anyway with the tools that we have. So I think, yeah, I think that's what I would like to share, is that there is this opportunity to experiment right now, because everybody's looking for the next thing in AI, but also how can we kind of bring humans back into the loop as much as possible, because we don't build, we're not going to build those critical skills we were talking about before if we just go, oh, everything's AI now. I think that there's still a role for humans.
Thanks. Great insight, Morgan. Well, I guess we're kind of mostly in agreement. The question I want to ask is, are we in our, I know that we're all kind of big fans of, AI and constantly, is there a danger that between the three of us, we might be a bit too enthusiastic about the capacity and the speed at which AI will be able to produce the stuff that we need? Are you seeing anything in the anything that might throw a roadblocks? I mean, I'll share probably one of the things that I am seeing is possibly it's this phantom use of AI, in the sense that people are using it but not admitting to the use or how much it's been used. So it's almost like there's no transparency when you see an output, unless you put the output up through Gen AI and say, do you think this has been generated Gen AI, and it'll come with some kind of an assessment. I think so. The roadblock is where people say it's the human element, but in reality, they're actually kind of using, Gen AI fairly substantially for their outputs. I don't know if you've kind of seen that dichotomy, and I guess they're trying to protect what the human value, the whole process is. I don't know if you've seen that, Morgan or Lavanya.
See, I think one of the things which now the media company, the social media has now been enforced to do is having all of the images and videos watermarked, which was not there until last week or maybe 10 days back. Okay, so just like that, any kind of code which is also, be it coding, be it text generation, be it voice generation, if there is a way in which you can identify that it's AI generated, I think that should become necessary, a rule. And it's now an unsaid rule, but it should become a proper a law against using AI material, I reckon. So if that is there, yes, that will make this whole process much simplified, where it's all black and white. If AI is used, yes, AI is being used, and this is the outcome, kind of a thing. But at this point in time, there is no such kind of hard and fast rule with that. Having said that, I use AI for, I mean, I encourage my students to use AI, and I use AI to mark them. How that aided me was, when I'm evaluating like 60 papers with, cloud architecture diagrams, brain fatigue, I might just kind of oversee a few things in one or two diagrams. But if I train an agent to kind of look through the things that I want to look through in the architecture diagram, it looks through everything with absolutely the same kind of, energy level, I would say, if I can kind of give it a name. So the corrections were all fair and square for all of the students. If there was something wrong, it was able to catch it. But I had the ability to train the agent. So that is one thing. So like, not just about using AI, what we should be looking at is how to train, and that's what agentic AI is all about, right? So how to train the AI to be able to do things that you want it to do. So I think that's where the focus should go now. And like Morgan rightly said, experiment with that. Not just, I mean,
Yeah.
right now, a lot of people are just using AI like how they used to use Google. Just go and ask a question and expect it to answer. But that should change, I reckon.
Yeah. Actually, that's an interesting point. Might go a little bit deeper. Lavanya, you said that you're potentially using agentic AI to, I guess, assess the submissions from students.
That's
Can
right.
you? That's very interesting. I'm sure Morgan also will be interested in that aspect. So what's involved in that? Is that you scan their papers as an image and
Yeah, you
then
just
it does
you just upload their documents, their document
the
submission.
PDF? Yeah.
Before that, I mean, of course, you create an agent, you train the agent
Yeah.
saying, these are the kind of things that I'm looking for the assessment, and if there is a diagram, this is what the diagram should represent, and these are the things that has to be present in the cloud architecture. This is the client brief for which the cloud architecture has been built, so it has to address all of those items that's been asked by the client, kind of a thing. So after that, I run it through with a few of the submissions, and if it's making any mistakes, I correct it. So yeah, this process of creating the agent took me about half an hour, but I would take that half an hour to assess one paper. So by doing this for one half an hour, I kind of saved whatever time that I had to correct the 60 papers. So
Interesting. We might do a deep dive into the use of AI for assessment. Morgan, any that's quite interesting. This is application using assessment, because I think we're kind of talking about recognizing skills in the workplace. One of the barriers to that is that the assessment takes a long time. So that'll be quite interesting if AI could help in marking the assessments. If you want to say, Morgan, you seen anything similar happening?
I mean, I was doing my master's program a little while ago, and I did joke with the group there and the academic that we're seeing there's a lot of students that are using AI to submit their assignments. There's a lot of assessors that are using AI to assess those AI
Assessment.
assignments. So it's kind of like AI,
Just a loop.
AI, AI. Which is pretty fun. But look, I think that there's tools available, and if we're not blind, we're not just not blindly using AI, we're not creating AI slop, then which is I think that's the term that's doing the rounds at the moment. Then I think that it makes sense to use them in an academic sense. Like, why wouldn't you use AI to actually improve the process, particularly when you've got that many papers to actually get through? If you can do something, then I think there needs to be that's a professional development that needs to be shared with all of academia to be able to use it in that way. I think that the problem is many universities at the moment seem to be fearing it. I'm not quite sure how to, or how do we actually tackle this? Like, students use it. So yeah, but we've got to remember we're in a really interesting time where we're like right at the very start of this innovation, this huge platform innovation. It's basically like electricity has been invented, and we're like right at the start trying to work out what we can use it for. So that's what whenever things seem kind of, oh, where are we? How are we going to approach this as society? You got to remember that
Yeah.
we are so early, and things will we will come together and work this out together as a community over the next few years as we refine it.
Hey, brilliant. I think this is probably where we finish, but before we finish, Lavanya, would you want to share just one thing that you kind of discovered in the past couple of weeks which excited you in the use of AI, and share it with us, and hopefully we can explore it too.
like the one that I said, Clipchamp. So
Yeah,
I've never used Clipchamp before,
yeah,
and I figured out that you can use Clipchamp to create videos. I mean, my intent was to actually, put the old school way, put
yeah.
slides and add, use some text to speech software and integrate all of that. But then I did not even realize that Clipchamp can do all of that for you. And if you don't like the images, you can just go and tell it, no, I want it to be replaced with this kind of an image. I want all kind of demographics to be included and stuff. And it does it all like in a matter of a few seconds. So
Nice.
back in the days, I had to kind of go look through stock images, look at the usability rights and all of that. So now everything is done by AI for you.
Morgan, anything exciting
It's amazing.
to share?
Yeah, what's exciting for me is what I like to do is I go into producthunt.com, which is a tech and AI startup page where they rank different startups that are launching a new product. And every single day they have this list of the top launches, or every week. And if you have a look at that, you can get a sense of the types of businesses that are being launched in this space. It's really interesting to sort of see where the trend is at. And one of the trends that excites me is that people building their own customized products, their own customized applications. And so there's so many of these being spun out at the moment. And I think that there's this going to be an opportunity for us in learning. Like, we teach people skills, but I think there'll be an opportunity for us to actually develop products that solve the problems that people are having that require a particular skill. So I think that that's going to be something that starts to emerge in the next couple of years, if not sooner.
Hey, wonderful. That is exciting news, and it'll be such an exciting space. I think this is where we'll finish. So thank you very much, Lavanya and Morgan, for your inputs. I really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully the listeners will too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Likewise, Stephen.